We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Pod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
Swinging a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup. The Flyers win the Stanley Cup for the lead. Yes!
Iverson, wow, what a fake off Daniels as he broke his ankles and got all the way to the cup.
Well, good morning. We're doing the morning skate. We got listen, still bathing in all the Eagles Super Bowl stuff. It's kind of that off season has started to turn. We got the belt to ass tour that quickly came to a screeching halt with the off season moves. But listen, we're here talking all things Flyers this morning. It's an interesting time in Flyers land. Mark, before we get started, I gotta give a little shout out to a fellow Philly podcast, to Talkin 215. They had a little contest to win some tickets, and I was very fortunate to be able to win and take part. And I was down there the other night against the game against the Sens with my brother and my son, and we had a great time. We met up. Mark and I caught up after the game, and Mark's down there covering in the building for the Fired Up Sports Network. But shout out to those guys. They do a great job doing what we're doing, the Philly Sports Talk stuff on our own personal time, and just be fortunate that was able to kind of take part in that, and kind of spread the wealth a little bit. And we'll just look forward to getting in the building. And it was more packed than I thought. But the thing that, the last time you and I talked with, we had Eric, and we were kind of doing the all sports roundtable, was getting in the building to be able to see Mitchkoff. And even though Mitchkoff doesn't score the other night against the Sens, being able to see him on the ice as advertised, I'm really, really excited about the opportunity for him to start playing with some high level talent, because you can see that there are points that are being left on the board, whether the passes aren't getting to him or guys don't know what to do when the passes get to them.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely special, and it's gonna be fun as we move along here through this rebuild. It's not quite as fun right now. The Flyers aren't mathematically eliminated, but they're more or less eliminated. I mean, it's just kind of where it is, and from playoff contention. So yeah, I think it's been a rough up and down year, but he's been excellent, and I think being in that Calder Trophy conversation like he has been is what we expected, and it's nice to not have something devastating happen, or it's nice to like expect someone to be good and them come in and be good. The Flyers have had they've made their own bed with some of this, but there's been some bad luck along the way too. So for them to get a little bit of a break here with Mitchkoff is a good thing, and it's nice to have him here and watching him play at a high level.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, you can see the plan. You can see it kind of coming in place, right? You see them, retaining guys that they think they want to keep around. You want to be able to move on from guys that you can see are going to have be more of an asset as draft capital to kind of move in deals. I mean, you've seen them stockpile picks. We can, for the next 3 years, they're chalked full of 6 first round picks, 6 second round picks, 4 third round picks, 2 fourth rounds, and the list goes on and on. But like, I'm curious to see what they end up doing. I know we've talked about that on previous shows, but like to see, how much of that is, used for actual bringing in, talent, because they know that they're going to need that consistent influx of youth, as some of these, as they're going to start to sign and extend guys and start to pay guys. But I'm also curious to see what they do with that draft capital in terms of acquiring like veteran talent.
Yeah, I mean, this offseason is going to be. I feel like we say that every year with them, but when you're kind of in the position the Flyers in, I mean, every offseason is a big offseason. It is
Mm-hmm.
important, um, especially this year where there's really kind of. I think there's really no excuse for them to be somewhat moderately improved, whether it's, because of all the assets, right? Because they have all these assets. They have the ability to make some picks at the podium. They also have the ability to move some to help them get something that can help the club now. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
they'll have cap space to, add a player if they would like. So there's options there, and Briere's done a nice job, I think, just in general, objectively speaking, like of doing that, of acquiring the picks, acquiring the futures, and aiming for an off season where you're like, okay, the next 2 off seasons we're going to try to make some noise here and put
Right.
some pieces together. Um, so you know, right now, I mean, the product is what it is, and I mean, there's a handful of guys on the roster that'll be here,
Yeah.
um, but it's very much a teaming transition right now. Like
Yeah.
they're kind of just it's full blown evaluation mode. I think at this point.
It's true, right? Like when you're sitting, like you had mentioned, that they're not mathematically eliminated, but when you're sitting with the 26th best record, um, writings on the wall,
Yeah.
in terms of trying to start to plan for what to do towards the end of the season. Um, what's your perspective in terms of what are they evaluating? What's the biggest piece that needs to be evaluated in terms of between now and the end of the season?
I coming into this year, Don, I would have said the center position. The Flyers are. I believe I've said this on other shows, but the Flyers are kind of in a position where, at least down the middle of the ice, there's a lot of players that are very similar. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's like different tiers of the same player, essentially.
Gotcha.
And I think Noah Cates has proven that he's going to be a piece moving forward here, at least in your top 9. And he's played very well. Bobby Brink,
Agreed.
those guys, I think they've kind of proven their worth here, and they'll be a part of this thing moving forward, I would imagine. But I think like at the center position at the beginning of the year, but also I think maybe something that I didn't anticipate would be something that needed a closer look would have been the goaltending and how bad that has been this year. It's among the league's worst. It's in the bottom tier of goaltending in the league between
Yeah.
Urson and Fedotov. Kolosov got some time as well. Um, but I mean, that part has been. Um, you could probably make the argument we were just saying about like the mathematically eliminated thing. If the Flyers were just getting league average goaltending, we might be talking about, oh well, they might make a push for the playoffs. Uh,
I mean, legit, like we're not talking about top end, right? We're talking about like just like legit middle of the road,
Yeah.
because what you're seeing is like, and you saw, we were down there for the, yeah, I mean, you were down there for the game against Tampa and Ottawa, but like when you look at some of the goals that are being given up, I mean, they're not supposed to be goals. I mean, they're
Yeah.
legit. They're just pucks that are being put on the net, and part of what I noticed when I was down there is like the timing of when those goals are being given up. It literally, in that game in particular in Ottawa, it seemed like as soon as, whenever they scored a goal to get it back even, or to get it back where the game was within hand, they would give up another one. And it was like just getting punched in the stomach, because you're looking at it going like, we're trying to get back in this game, and we legit can't. We can't. You can't buy a bucket because you're trying to figure out how to like stay afloat, and your goalie's back there just like, reminded me of like the Goldberg gif from Mighty Ducks, where he's wearing the Flyers. He's got the Flyers jersey on, and he's literally just like, have a goal,
Yeah.
just do it. And I'm like, oh, come on, like you really, that's a position where when you want to flip the switch and start turning this thing, as important as it's going to be to have a number one center, you're going to have a legit tandem back there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of where I think, at least in the foreseeable future, I think that's where they're going to go, right? I think the Flyers are, um, everything that I've heard and have read is that the Flyers are really, really big fans of Sam Erson's. They really like the kid. They like his mental makeup, and he has nights where he can be very, very good. But there's also been nights where it just hasn't been good enough. And then I'm not a big, like, just in general, like my general view of games, I'm not a big blame the goalie guy. Like, a lot of things have to happen before you get to that point. But
Mm-hmm.
with that being said, even with like a breakdown here and there, sometimes you just need a guy to like, whether it's just he relies on his athleticism, makes a great save, or you just need a save. And they just haven't gotten those, I think, on the whole this year. I don't really know what the future holds for Ivan Fedotov. I know he's under contract next season.
Yeah.
And Kolosov's kind of in the mix, but I don't really know where that kind of stands. I mean, uh, I think people have questioned his desire to even be here. I mean, he's
Yeah.
which I don't, I don't want to. I don't want to pass judgment on the kid. I don't know him personally. I know what I've heard about him,
Right.
but uh, but I I don't know if that's true or not. He's in Lehigh Valley right now playing for the Phantoms, so
True.
you know, I don't know if he can give them some games next year. But I mean, as you said, like once this thing kind of starts moving forward here, I mean, goaltending, it's not debatable. They're going to need it to be a lot better if they're going to be good. It can undo a
Yeah.
lot of good things.
Very much so. And you like you and I were talking after the game about the fact that like Harrison was good in the role when Carter Hart was here. He was good as the number two, but it's it's the equivalent of like that backup player is great in that role, but as soon as they're like, and of course us being Philadelphia sports fans, right? We love the backup guy, and we're like, put that guy in. That guy will be
Mhm.
great. And then that guy goes in, and you're like, why are they playing that guy? That guy sucks. I'm going, like, that's kind of where we're at, right?
Yeah.
And they're there not by choice, but just by pure circumstance because of everything that went down with that situation. But it's a shame that it hasn't played out differently. Um,
Yeah.
you know, there was a huge deal about Fedotov, right? Fedotov last year with him coming over and just being enormous, and hoping that like he's just big enough to just stand there. Um, but it turns out he's tall enough but not wide enough. And it's just they're going to have to turn it around at some point and kind of flip whatever they have to do at that position. And I don't know how they're going to address it. They've got we've talked about Zavgragin before, the kid, the 19-year-old kid that's in Russia, that's obviously probably 2, 3, 4 years away from being a guy that can come over and contribute. They seem to be going to this Russian well fairly often. I don't know
Yeah.
how many scouts they got over there, but we between they pick up Kuzmenko for he was here for a cup of coffee. You got Kolosov, you've got Mitchkov, you've got stuff. Like they've gone to that well a whole lot. But I got to imagine that this is something where when the time is right, they get the opportunity to be able to kind of strike and bring somebody in that's already established.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they do have goalies in their system. It's not like there's not. Uh, it actually might be the one place in the organization where there's like some pretty good depth.
Yeah,
Um,
I would agree.
even with the young Russian goalie over there. I mean, like Carson Bjarnason is another one. I think he's
Yeah,
playing in the
true. Very true.
WHL. He's another one that I think I've read a lot of good things about him. Um, So I mean, there's guys in the system, but it's such a difficult position. It's still one of the more difficult positions to evaluate, and sometimes I think it's like one of those things where you look around the league, and you know, you need good goaltending to win, but elite goaltending is so hard to come by, and that doesn't even always uh, trigger winning. Sometimes, uh, great elite goaltending. I mean, I think it was a Logan Thompson. I think he's with the Caps now. I think he was the goalie for Vegas when they won the cup. Like a good goalie, but I don't know that I would consider him like top echelon. Like he's not like Shesterkin or some of these other guys that we consider the elite, top end goaltenders. So
Sure.
it's like you can acquire a guy that you can play in tandem with Urson, and you just need them
Mhm.
to get hot for stretches. And um, it's such a tough position to evaluate. It's like you need them when you always need them, but it's like it's one of those things where it's like you don't realize it always until it's real bad. You're like, man, we need a goalie. Like it's just one of those
I,
things.
yeah, no, I hear you. All right, post deadline.
Yes.
So obviously the big deal is the deal that ships Lawton to Toronto. They sent Lawton and a 2025 fourth and a sixth to the Flyers for a first round pick. And I'm going to butcher his name, Nikita Gerbakin. Ger-
Girl Brett? I don't know. I gotta check.
Is this the
I,
kid with the really good lettuce and no teeth?
yes, that's
Okay,
him.
perfect. I like him. He's in already. Seems like he could like he could roll into like Fairless Hills like on a row home and fit right in at the corner bar.
Yeah.
Um, talk to me about that. About that move.
Yeah, I thought that it was coming. It's just it got to that point where it was time. I think um, Scott Lawton was a consummate pro in his time with the Flyers, and
Mm-hmm.
very beloved by teammates, by the community, everybody that I think had got to know him or spend time around him. I think really loved Scotty, and um, you know, good hockey player, but better person. I think
Very true. But
about
like a great guy on and off the ice.
yeah, really, and I've never heard anybody utter a bad word about him. He's always been a consummate pro and a teammate. So it's tough to let go of a guy like that. But it was at a point where, I had mentioned Noah Cates at the beginning of the show, and they kind of play similar roles, right? And
Mhm.
Cates is younger and cheaper at this point, and um, Lawton had been um, drawing interest from teams, and if they're willing to pay up, which a first round pick and a prospect like the one they got, I
Yeah,
think is a pretty good haul for a player like Lawton. Um, but it's not just about, like people look at that as maybe an overpayment or whatever. It isn't just about what like tangible on ice hockey stuff. I think it's also, um, the kind of teammate he is, and he kind of
right.
helps the dressing room and things like that. And as we know, teams in the NHL still really put value in that. So
Very
uh,
much so. Right, like,
I, it
and
was a good
this is
trade.
where this is where you can see them being creative, where you can take that, you can kind of cherry pick from that pool of assets to sweeten a deal. And the one that I'm looking at is like the one where they flip Kuzmenko, um, and they it seems like they throw in the seventh round sweetener, right? And then they essentially turn a guy that they rented for about a week and a half and a seventh round pick into a third round pick, which
Mhm.
is like, to me, that kind of those are some savvy. Seems like a Howie Roseman type move.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then they also, on the same day, they also flip Eric Johnson, for Devine Smith, who I'm sure will again put him in evaluation mode and see what's there.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a depth forward. He might, they might call him up for um, I know he's um known for the physicality and the toughness, so they might call him up to, you know, um, protect the teammate or something like that. He might get a
Most
cup of
definitely.
coffee here and there. Um, but yeah, I mean the Kuzmenko trade was um it's kind of like between the margins. It's like a small, like kind of subtle move, but it adds another asset,
Mhm.
draft capital, which you can always use later on for a trade or something like that. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's a part of a larger trade. And Kuzmenko will get a chance to play for a contender, a team that was looking for some goal scoring, and he can certainly provide that. And so yeah, it was a cup of coffee here. I think that trade, if you go back to the Frost and Farabee trade, I mean, I think that was more about creating cap space. Um,
Mhm.
I mean, they've gotten Jacob Peltier in that deal, but I mean, he played 5 minutes the other night, like in a game, and he should be one of these players that I think they should be evaluating. And I don't know really why he hasn't really gotten a chance to get a look up in the lineup, but
Yeah, no, I would agree with you.
you know,
And I look at this and I go like, like it. What do you think it was more of a fit,
I you
or do you
know
think it was like a just they saw him more of like an asset that they could flip, that they weren't sure if he was going to be a guy that would stick around?
Yeah, I mean, he may have just been somebody they took back to make the money work. You know what I mean? But he's young.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
he just turned 24, so he's like a young 24. Not that 24 is not young anyway, but
So
it's
I would
like,
take 24.
yeah,
As a guy who's about to turn 45, I would take 24.
yeah. So I mean, he has shown flashes in games, like, but he's just not getting enough ice time to kind of like put it all on full display.
Okay.
I would imagine, he's been playing fourth line minutes um, since he's gotten here. I mean, 5 minutes isn't even fourth line minutes. I don't even know why you would even dress the kid if you're going to play 5 minutes. So it's like, you know, I think he should be getting more ice just to see what's going on there. You know, maybe he doesn't. Yeah, maybe it doesn't really stick, or maybe he doesn't have like a quality that you feel sticks out, or maybe we have a couple players like him already, so maybe we'll move on. but you don't know until you put him in that position. And I
Very
think
true.
that's been a, you know, that kind of falls on the coaching, and or somebody above the coach to say, hey, we want to get a look at this kid. You need to get him out there. Um, so I wish that we would see him more, and just to see what's what there, and have a better look at it. And but I think that move was more about flexibility, and but I've also read really good things about the kid. To go back to the Lawton trade, I've heard a lot of good things about this kid coming. Um, I think he's caught up with visa issues, which Flyers players seem to have visa issues constantly. I don't know what that is or why that happens. Um,
I think we just need to do they just need to keep someone on staff, like just someone who's like
who
a
just takes care of
hockey
that?
visa specialist.
Yeah,
Like just like that's your only job. Your
yeah.
only job is to work with the State Department and make sure that they
Everybody's
know
feet
that they're only here to hit pucks. Like
are up to date. Everybody's aren't expiring. You know what I mean. Like, just hire one person to take care of visa issues. I don't understand like
I
why that.
feel like Comcast has enough cable subscribers to be able to take care of that.
Yeah, yeah. I would like to. You know, I would like to think so.
Listen, they're gonna play. They're playing Carolina tonight
Yep.
at home, and then they're gonna go on the road and they're gonna play. They got a nice little road stretch coming up where they're gonna play a pile of teams that are kind of battling out for playoff kind of where to see where that playoff seeding kind of falls at the end of the season. But they're going to play at Tampa, at Washington, at Dallas. They go to Chicago, and Chicago is kind of here and there, and then they're going to go at Toronto before they come home, and they're not going to play at home again until March 27th.
Yeah. Yeah.
Talk to me about that stretch.
That's a wicked stretch. That would be a wicked stretch even if the Flyers were good, and they're not. So, I mean,
Very true.
Dallas just traded for Mikko Rantanen. I mean, that's going to be they're already a good team, and
Very true.
cup contenders, and you go and grab a guy like that, elite level forward, and one of the best guys, best scorers in the league, and add them to that group. I mean,
Right.
that's going to be rough. Tampa again, who I think is they're a good team. The Flyers kind of got a somewhat of a pass. I think the other night, Nikita Kucherov didn't play, so
Gotcha.
he'll be back probably for that game, and maybe they get Vasilevsky as well in goal. Um, so that's a tough stretch, and that's the thing, though. And people always make it about the Flyers, but that's just hockey, right? Like, you can
Very
come
true.
in and you're like, man, this stretch is going to be brutal, and then they go out there and they win. Yeah, you can, because
I mean,
it's the law of
the game,
averages throughout the
yeah,
league.
the game against Tampa is a prime example of that, right?
Yeah.
Like the Flyers had at that point. I'm just going back through the schedule. The Flyers at that point had lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 7,
Mm,
and then they beat Tampa in a shootout in overtime.
yeah. It played pretty well. I mean, that was
Right?
actually a good
Like
game for them. Yeah.
so, I think right. You know that there are going to be some games that are going to be mixed in there, but like to me, like this is what we've talked about for a while now.
Mm,
You got to evaluate your talent, right? You put the guys out there, but I think the writing's on the wall with this. You're gonna have the games in Dallas and Chicago are back to back Saturday and Sunday, so you're gonna be playing early in Dallas on Saturday, and then you're gonna fly to Chicago and then fly to Toronto. So not only is this a tough stretch, but it's a tough stretch in a short time with a lot of flights, with a team that's young and not a ton of experience. So, it could be a rough stretch. There's a guy the situation with Ovechkin going for this record in
Mhm.
Washington. Talk to me about Ovechkin because he seems like he's a guy that I feel like could have played here and would have been like absolute like he's already going to go down as one of the best players to play in the NHL
Yeah.
between what he's doing on the ice and then what he does off the ice, still playing at a really elite level at his age. Even has a situation the other night where you know he's going for this record, has the opportunity to put an open net in, and then passes it off to a teammate for his first hat trick.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like at this. I think him and Crosby both. Um, at this point in their careers, it's kind of like one of those things where we've had a lot of battles with them. Bless you. Um, they've had a lot of battles. They've had, they've been our rivals, but they're at this point in their careers where you can really kind of step back and appreciate all they've done in the league. And I think with Ovechkin, I mean, this record, obviously, I think it's one of those. It's one of those records, like, I don't think anybody thought we'd see someone break this.
Yeah.
Gretzky's numbers are incredible just across the board, and to have someone break one of his is pretty wild. And he's always been, Ovechkin's always been somebody who's uh, he's always been great for the game, the personality, he's always played the game as a he played it, it was always he always had that like kid like energy,
Very much.
even now, and yeah, total just total star, in every sense of it. Excellent player. He's won everything, and this is going to be awesome to see somebody break it, and it's going to be historical. And um, yeah, I mean, Ovi's had just an incredible career, and the league ditto Crosby, but I mean, the league's going to feel a lot different when they're not here,
Oh, most definitely.
and they walk
Right.
away.
He's what nine? He's nine goals behind.
Yeah, yeah, I
Um,
think it's 9 now.
I mean, some of the Gretzky stats are very akin to some of the Tony Gwynn baseball stats. Like
Yeah,
some and I might butcher this stat, but like there's something like if you took all of Gretzky's goals away, he would still be like at the top, like near the top of the leaderboard in points.
yeah,
It's like some of that stuff is just like it really does give you a greater appreciation um for the player that Gretzky was. But it also makes me look back and go, how did he play for as many teams as he did? Like how did so many like
yeah,
how did so many teams move on from him?
yeah,
Like it's a wonder that they ever let him out of Edmonton.
yeah, yeah. I think it was a money thing, wasn't it? Like,
It was, but like
yeah.
for I mean, he had already done enough at
Oh
that
yeah,
point. I feel like
yeah.
to
Oh,
to
for sure.
warrant whatever like
Yeah,
and from everything that I remember, and again I was little, but like I don't and from what I've gone back, like I've watched a handful of documentaries that have gone back through some of those teams. Um, it didn't seem like he was asking for like an obscene amount of money.
right.
So I'm like, I'm looking at this going, you know, yeah, he played for 4 NHL teams. Like
Yeah,
3 NHL teams said, we're okay to move on.
yeah,
Like and yeah, the fact so he went from Edmonton to LA to St. Louis to New York.
hmm yeah,
That's just that to me is like it's wild. It's
yeah,
wild to even think about like the fact that like he had and that team that he played with in Edmonton was like chocked full of Hall of Famers and
yeah,
like
yeah. I'm sure they could have taken up a collection to keep them, in Edmonton. I'm
I'm
sure people would have gladly handed over some cash to keep Gretzky in Edmonton and in Canada, just like in general, just like, but yeah, I mean, his numbers are ridiculous for any era. I mean, it's, I know often we talk like, and like the water cooler talk stuff is always, like, oh, this guy couldn't play in this era, he couldn't play in that era, and I mean, that's just ridiculous across any era, like any era of the sport. To score at the rate that he did was incredible, and yeah, for anybody to walk down one of those records is pretty incredible. And also, I mean, Ovechkin's had a pretty serious injury this year. He missed some time, but it was able to get back pretty quick.
Yeah.
And that was pretty wild in of itself. So I think the Flyers see them twice, the Caps.
I'm gonna go back and look real quick.
Yeah, I want to say they see them twice here.
Once.
Oh,
Once.
once.
They're gonna play. They're gonna play on the 20th.
The 20th. Okay.
Yeah. So they have. So after that stretch where they go through what we talked about, they're gonna go Montreal, Buffalo, Nashville, Montreal again,
Okay.
Rangers, Islanders, Ottawa, Columbus, and Buffalo.
Okay. Yeah. I couldn't remember if they played them more than once because I thought, like, surely, I mean, he's gonna break this thing against the
Yeah,
Flyers
I mean,
if the Flyers see him again.
right.
So
Most
I mean, I don't
Right.
know if he'll do it.
He's got what, probably 15 games, 16 games left, something like that.
Yeah.
So he needs 9 goals.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's hoping to try to get it done during this season.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have to do a whole nother off season. But
Yeah.
that's one of those things where it's like, if you're flipping through the dial and you got a chance to watch him for a couple of minutes, you won't be wasting your time.
No. Even now, and the Capitals are a good team.
Most
like,
definitely.
and they've done it right. I think, like, with there were some lean years there for the Caps, but they made a conscious effort that hey, we're gonna try to put a quality roster and team together as long as Ovi's here. Like, they weren't going to let him like kind of wallow on, like, even though you probably could have sold tickets just based on the fact that he was going to break a record, whether the team was good or not.
Right.
The Capitals are one of the best teams in the East this year, in addition to having this really awesome side story, which is most nights the story. And it's just they did a good job with that, just as an organization, I think. So not only is it that he's breaking this like all-time record, but he's playing in meaningful games too. And
right, he's not doing it down the stretch when they're 15 games out.
Yeah. So that's really cool. That they're coming in like meaningful moments as well.
Listen, as much as they are a rival, I would love to see him have the opportunity to kind of go on a deep run.
Yeah,
and and see what's left in the tank, because that him in meaningful playoff games is an even better watch. So
yeah.
He's a guy that from afar has been really really cool to watch on the ice, and obviously because they play them frequently, we get to see him a little bit more often. But
yeah.
I think we'll look back on this and really appreciate what he was able to bring.
Yeah. Props to the Great 8.
Oh, most definitely. Listen, on the way out, we'll be on the other side in about 47 seconds talking about what's left of the Sixers in the NBA. And so, stick around, tune in. If you're listening back on the pod, just keep listening. We'll be back on the other end, and go Flyers.
Go Flyers.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are
We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Pod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
Swing and a miss. Struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup. The Flyers win the Stanley Cup for the lead. Yes!
Iverson, wow, what a fake off Daniels as he broke his ankles and got all the way to the cup.
Well, this is Drunk on the Court, but Mark, do we have to?
Yeah, we can just call it here. You want to? Right. Thanks for tuning
Listen, thanks for tuning in. This was well, we're going to give it about as much effort as the Sixers have given this year. So, thanks for tuning in. And
I'm hurt, by the way. I think I'm going to sit this one
Oh.
out. I'm hurt.
is it your pinky? Is your pinky? Your
not,
pinky? We can't click the mouse.
It's an ingrown thing, and I think I'm just not doing too good. So I'm gonna sit this one out.
Oh God! Well, listen, Mark. Before we even dive into the Sixers, I know you and I kind of chat. We were talking beforehand. The sad state of the NBA is the product that the NBA is putting on the court is like it's not good. It's a really bad product. It's really bad product around the league. You've got teams like, and our team in particular, but like, there was an instance the other night with the Sixers and the Raptors where you've got a guy, and I can't remember the guy's name, but there's a guy on the Raptors who's playing really well throughout the first three quarters, and then they pull him.
Yeah.
And they pull him because they're trying not to win. And the league has gotten to the point where, and Mark, I'll let you talk in a second, but the league's now investigating, the Sixers for, their injury reporting and due diligence on injuries with, Tyrese Maxey, with Paul George, with Joel Embiid. I know you mentioned, Oklahoma City's in the same kind of boat with, managing their injuries for a completely different reason. But the product on the NBA is just so bad. You've got the Mavericks making an awful trade to trade, one of the league's, best and brightest stars to LA for an often injured, aging, big man, who they promptly, their season has promptly gone in the toilet. It's really almost not worth tuning in.
Yeah, I should.
We haven't even gotten to the Sixers yet.
Yeah, and we should preference too. Like, I mean, you and I are both like, we do this show because we're both like NBA, like we're both basketball guys. It's not like I think sometimes like people think like, oh, like they don't really like basketball. Like basketball kind of gets this like they get trashed by people who like really don't follow the game. Like we watch the game, like you and I. We're basketball fans, so this isn't coming from.
I had it on long enough to realize that's the five guys that were on the court at one point last night. I didn't even know who they were,
and they play for your team,
and they play for my team. Like
yeah.
It's just
And last night was let me go back because we could talk about last night, but the league itself, like this isn't like a Sixers issue. This is an NBA issue. like you mentioned the Thunder getting investigated. They're getting investigated for a game where like they're a good team. They sat five. They sat their five starters. Like all five of the starters just didn't play, and that's kind of become a norm. We've gone too far in this like load management aspect where now it's just guys just they pick up knocks and they just sit, and it's like no matter how like small or insignificant. And I mean, it's any, and that's not like an era thing. That's not like a across the board. I feel like everybody feels that this product could be so much better, and it's not. The game
Mhm.
itself is like I still believe, playoff basketball rolls around in springtime and the summer. And I mean, it's especially two good teams, two good NBA teams with elite level talent. It's poetry to me. And
Yeah,
the
I would
fact
I
that
would
it's
absolutely agree. But the
yeah,
problem is, and you and I have talked about this before, the problem is that the regular season feels like an 82 game preseason. None of the
yeah,
games matter.
and they've
Um,
tried to like with the NBA Cup and things like that. They've tried to make this like, oh, there's something to play for, and it's like, for half.
that NBA Cup, the idea, I get the idea of it, right? Because it's a tournament based thing.
Mhm.
Like to have games that are like simultaneously regular season games, but also NBA Cup games that are played
Right.
on these like obnoxious courts. Like if you wanted to do something like that, like we're about to embark on March Madness, which we can talk about because that would probably be much more exciting than the Sixers.
Yeah.
Stop the season and what would it be? What, a 4 round, 5 round, like play a single elimination March Madness style tournament.
Mhm.
That would be more exciting.
Yeah.
Like one game, not like, oh, we're gonna accrue points and we're
Right.
gonna do it. Like fly. I don't even give a shit if you fly everybody out to Vegas. Fly everybody out to Vegas. For you play. These guys can play back to back, right? You put them out there for 10 days. When your team gets eliminated, you fly home.
Yeah. I've always thought too, and this is like one of my things that I have no idea if people even would care about this or anything. I find it interesting. I think it would be interesting if at the end of the year, when the NBA playoffs start, there's like a loser bracket with all the teams that didn't make it. And
Yep,
instead of a weighted like lottery draw, you have to play for the first round pick.
I'm with you.
And
Done. In.
so like
Sold.
you got to play for the first overall pick. So in a little mini tournament, if you don't reach a certain level, like I'm even like if you make the play in, that's one thing. You're kind of in the middle, so you don't want to be there anyway. But if you're in that bottom tier of the league, take the worst six teams, put them in a thing and be like, all right, you guys are the worst six teams in the league. You guys got to play each other for the first overall pick. So if you want this franchise altering talent, you got to actually have to win something to get him.
I'm with you. We can work out the details later, Mark. I'm in. I'm done. Like the like we were talking about before, right? The meaningless regular season is such a turnoff
Mhm.
that like it makes it really hard to get to the playoffs.
Right.
And like it's just it's so frustrating. It's so maddening, and I think partially and you and I are probably a little bit jaded because we grew up in an era, right, where Kobe Bryant didn't sit out,
No.
Michael Jordan didn't sit out,
Yeah.
like those guys played every game, and they
Yeah.
played every game like it's their last, and nowadays, like load management is such a BS term for like I feel like not being like savvy enough to be able to navigate a season. There's more health benefits available right now. There's more treatments available right now. There's more science
Oh,
to
yeah.
to support rehabilitation programs and recovery. Like there's more information out there now than there ever was, and it seems like the guys are getting paid more to do less,
Hmm.
and it's really really maddening to be like, I'm looking at this going, I don't even know how we get out of this. I pulled up the Sixers depth chart, Mark, right? And the five guys that are listed as the starters, right? Maxi's listed as out. Grimes is day to day. Oubre is day to day. Paul George is out. Andre Drummond is day to day. Then you go to the second string. Lonnie Walker is day to day. Justin Edwards is day to day. Like you're looking at guys like O'Shea Brissett, Alex Reese, Adem Bona, Jalen Hood, Shafino. Like,
Shafino, yeah.
like this is what we're talking about.
Yep.
Jared Butler.
Yep.
Like we have been reduced. Mark, I'm almost certain that there are guys that are on this roster that wouldn't even belong on the Blue Coats roster.
Yeah. I mean, I actually said earlier this year to my fiance Emily, I told her, because we don't live that far, but I was like, I want to go to some Blue Coats games just to check out who's going to be on my team, like coming up in the
Mm-hmm.
season, because they're going to get tick on this team. And so, like, when they call them up or they sign the 10-day deal or whatever, I'll have an idea of who they are when they get here. But that isn't to disparage any of these players, but it's
No, I
like,
mean, listen, this is nothing against any of those guys,
yeah,
but none
not
of
at
those
all.
guys belong on an NBA roster. They're there purely by circumstance because of how bad this is. But I really and listen, I'm in a position where play all these guys,
Yeah.
play them all. Because right now I was looking at Keith. It's interesting to see. I don't know if you follow Keith Pompey. So Keith Pompey has
Mhm.
taken a very. It seems like his reporting has kind of shifted a little bit because
Yeah.
after every game, it's like, oh, what are your thoughts about the game? Da, da, da. But then he's also posting a daily glimpse at the reverse NBA standings. So he's kind of keeping you updated on where they are right now. The Sixers
Yeah.
are tied for the fifth worst record.
Okay.
So the Sixers and the Nets are 22 and 44. It doesn't seem like they're going to catch the Pelicans because the Pelicans are 18 and 49.
Yeah.
But that their only goal between now and the rest of the season is to secure as much percentage possible to keep that pick within the top six.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is. I mean, just to have something that, like, to add another young asset to this group kind of makes, I don't know, regardless of position or anything like that, it just makes things a little bit easier, I think, in terms of trying to piece together something, right? Like, in the next off season, going in the next season, because I mean, we're not anywhere near the end of the Embiid saga. We're gonna have to figure out when he can get back, if he can get back, what that looks like if he is. Um, I'm gonna assume that the Sixers. I think I may have seen that somewhere, but I'm gonna assume the Sixers are gonna be taking calls on Paul George this summer to kind
I
of
got to imagine.
get out from underneath that contract, and maybe, even if it's just a matter of taking back expirings and just opening up the cap space again, um, to uh, maybe not in the immediate term, but, like, after a year where, like, some guys on some expiring contracts um, come off your books, and it becomes less about, you just hope, I guess, at that point, that they can give you something, if you plan to be even somewhat decent next year.
Yeah.
But I don't really know what that looks like, other than, like, as you said, it's probably it's not probably, it is better for the long term health of the
Mhm.
franchise to just let the wheels come off this thing, and uh, just let it just go downhill with no
Yeah.
brakes. You know what I mean? And
I mean, when you look at what's happening right now, like
yeah,
there's no reason for any of those guys to play.
yeah,
None.
and you know,
Even a guy like Grimes, who has come in
yeah,
and you know frustratingly been really productive
yeah,
as a scorer. He has the other night where he scores 44.
yeah,
I
he was
mean,
balling.
they're winning games that they have no business winning.
Yeah,
Um, even last night, the game was relatively competitive through the first half, and then you see the Pacers kind of
mhm,
take over in the third quarter, and they
yeah,
pull away, which is great for the Sixers because we need them to lose and lose as many games as possible because the biggest travesty out of this season would be it would only be completely appropriate that they would go this entire season, have it play out the way that it did, be as bad as they did, and then have that pick fall at 7.
yeah, yeah. That
Um,
would tough. That'd be tough.
and listen, for those who don't know, right, if that pick is outside of the top 7, then that pick gets transferred to OKC as part of I can't remember what trade was that. I
Um,
remember was that the Horford trade? Was that
it might have been. It might
might
have
have
been.
okay? Um, if that pick falls within the top 6, then obviously, and listen, if this team was what we thought it could be, right,
Mm,
it's a moot point
yeah,
because they're at the top of the East. They're in the 4 or 5 seed. They're nowhere within that range of being in the top 6. But
right, right.
we are where we are. But they've got enough games left in the season to you know I mean, they're going to go on a stretch where they're going to play Dallas, Houston, OKC, San Antonio, Atlanta, New Orleans. Then they're going to have a stellar matchup with the Wizards,
Oh God.
which I'm sure will be riveting. I mean, I'm looking at this, Mark. The tickets you ready for this, Mark? The
Yes.
tickets when they play the Wizards, tickets as low as $2.
And when is this? I might go.
Wednesday, March 26th.
Oh,
Listen, if you want to fly down to New Orleans, you can get in for $2.
man.
But then when like almost all of their home games, you can get in for single digits.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Um, I mean, listen, not where we thought they would be. Now, listen, I'm gonna only because I heard somebody talking about. I can't remember if it was Shams or somebody, but the medical exception for Embiid. There is a way, Mark, that they can get out from under this contract. And I'm just going to read only because I don't want to butcher this. It says if Embiid is deemed unable to play due to a medical issue, the Sixers could petition the NBA for a medical retirement,
yeah.
which has the potential to remove his contract from their books, but he would still receive his full salary. It says Embiid can no longer play due to a medical issue if they petition it for an NBA retirement. The Sixers could file for that medical retirement 1 year after his last game, which would be February 22nd of 26.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that would be, it would be, again, it could be one of those things that could help the franchise, just stay afloat.
Mm-hmm.
It would be super devastating to see his career end like that. For, you know, and it'll suck, but I think, right, we talk about the NBA being a legacy league a lot. Um, his legacy would just be like how he was great when he played, and he just wasn't. He didn't play all that often. And um, that's that would really, it would be a sad situation to play out like that. But it's a very real possibility at this point, and you know, uh, like you said about like the draft and all, like again being like such a vocal point of this for what this team's going to do moving forward. I mean, word to the wise also, like just as a sidebar, don't deal with Sam Presti anymore. Just,
Sam Presti is Howie Roseman.
I mean, don't deal with this man. If he's like, yeah, I'll take back a first round pick. Don't do it. Don't do it. Something's gonna happen. He's building this team through. I mean, like the job they've done in OKC is exactly what I think like you'd want an NBA rebuild uh, to look like. You know what I mean? Like you look at the players that they've been able to acquire since then, and just the ability to continue to add young, talented guys into that mix and have cap space on top of it is just like it's really like the best of both worlds and all. But like, just don't if you're at the draft table or you're in your office and you're an NBA executive and your phone rings and you got that Oklahoma City area code, don't even pick it up. Don't
Listen,
don't deal with that man.
if the number starts with 405,
do not
don't answer.
do not make a trade with
Don't
that
answer.
man.
Right, and
You
then
will end
Mark,
up on the wrong side of it.
it you also see some guys that came here that have gone other places and been successful, and then I'm like, all right, well, it's like that. Is it me? Right?
Yeah.
Is it this is it this organization?
Yeah.
Because you've had enough examples, right? Like, all right, this is a guy that like will rub a lot of Sixers fans the wrong way, but like Al Horford,
Hmm.
right? Al Horford, super productive in Boston, comes here for that stretch and is absolute trash.
Yeah.
Like he was bad. He was bad paired with Embiid. You thought you had like you were going to put a bunch of big guys on the court at the same time. It never worked out. He goes back to Boston. I mean, and he's not getting younger. He is still really productive
Yeah.
on a deep Boston team.
Yeah, he can still shoot, all that stuff. All the things that he's always been good at. He's still doing. Yeah, I mean that I just I think for to look back on it, knowing that like we're in for like coming down the stretch here, we're in for like some mutiny, for like where the team is and where they're headed. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it just like I just think about the window that existed and how short it was and how many
Mm-hmm.
misses there were and just constant drama with guys, and it was really auspicious from the start. Like it really just never it never looked like at any time, that even if they were to get out of the second round, I don't know. It just maybe that's looking back on it now, knowing what I know, but
Right.
it just man, it to think about how excited people were, when it was like, man, you know, s- man, like Simmons, Embiid, Fultz, you know, and
Every
and
once in a
thinking,
while, Mark, I get caught in those Facebook memories of like when I was like, oh my God, these Ben Simmons highlights.
yeah, and
And
then
like I think at some point, Mark, when this season is done, maybe over the summer, you and I might just have to do a solo Sixers deep dive into like go all the way back to like just to like purge all of that information
yeah, we
for
should,
going all the way back to like the Nerlens Noel stuff and like
yeah,
there were so many times where they had the opportunities to make moves that would have been franchise altering
yeah,
and just never did.
yep,
Um, and I think that when you talk about like the off season stuff, they have not had a quiet off season
hmm
that I can remember that wasn't filled with some kind of injury, drama, whatever. And Mark, they still haven't done and made any decision on Embiid yet. Like, it's
Right.
not like he was like, oh, they're gonna do this treatment, they're gonna make this. They've made this decision. We're gonna have this surgery. This is the recovery time. Nothing has happened yet.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, he's what, 7'3". He's probably close to 300 pounds. Like, whatever is going to happen is not going to be, forget my ignorance, but like, it's not an outpatient surgery. Like,
Yeah.
this is going to, whatever it's going to be really in depth. It's going to be really extensive. I'm
Mhm.
sure that the recovery time is going to be really long. I mean, at this point, it's hard to kind of picture what any future season is going to look like, because you don't even know if whatever procedure he's going to get is going to put him out for most of the season, if not all the season next year.
Right. And that ball is up in the air. We don't know if even in a year where you're just if you're horrible, like we don't even know, like as you mentioned already, we don't even know if you're going to have your first this year. And so that's another element of it that you have to kind of plan for, but you don't really know for sure yet.
Right.
And I'm sure the Sixers are scouting and doing their due diligence as organizations do.
Yeah.
But whether you're probably preparing as if you have the pick, I would imagine. But
I got to imagine, but like you're looking at a team that since January 31st has won 3 games.
yeah. So
They're in this last stretch of games between now and you basically have a month left. You got it between now and they're going to play their last game against Chicago on April 13th.
yeah,
You got between now and then to lose as many games as possible.
right. So
And hope and you have to hope that at some point, the Pelicans can kind of string together. I think if you can get to 4th worst,
mhm,
that kind of gives you a really good shot. The thing that they will have to worry about when that draft lottery comes out is any of those teams that are behind them jumping ahead.
right.
Because if you're sitting at 5, you better hope that the teams that are ahead of you are all picking ahead of you, or that you win that draft lottery and you're somehow in the top 3.
Yeah.
Because if any of those teams jump ahead of you, you're screwed.
Right.
And you're gonna and that's where I feel like, Mark. That's where I feel like this season is going. As bad as it's been, as bad of the product on the court, the play on the court, the injuries, whatever. That's where I feel like it's going. I feel like they're going to end up picking 7th, and then that pick goes to OKC.
Yeah.
And Mark, just to put a bow on it, okay. I saw this, and I'm gonna try to share the screen with this one because I feel like it's worth looking at, because I saw this and I was like, you know what, this might be something to take a look at. So I'm going to add this to the screen and see what we can do with this. All right, I'm going to take the graphics off because you can't really see what we're talking about. But what's on the screen right now is ChatGPT predicts the next 75 NBA championships.
Oh my God.
You want to guess how many times the Sixers are on there between now and 2104?
I'm trying to tell. I don't know. I don't see them.
They're not on there, Mark.
They're not on here.
They are not on there. But do
The
you know who
Sonics
is
are
on
on
there?
there.
Do you know who is on there, Mark?
Who's on there?
The Sonics, the Las Vegas Jackrabbits.
Yeah.
There are teams on there, Mark, that don't exist right now. The
Oh my
Las
God.
Vegas Jackrabbits are predicted to win in 2042 and 2049. There's a team in San Diego, the San Diego Waves. And this is where like ChatGPT goes off the rails a little bit, but like
Right.
there's I'm guessing that this is taking into account that in 2069 the NBA has expanded globally because the Uganda Gulf is on there. And then the Shanghai Dragons in 2099.
Oh my
Mark,
god.
this is the sad state of Sixers land and NBA that we can't even get ChatGPT to give us a championship in the next 75 years. So, Mark,
That's hysterical. The Edmonton Oilers are on there. I don't know if you saw that at the bottom.
the Oilers are going to simultaneously play NBA and NHL. Oh God, how did I miss that? In 2090,
Yeah.
the Edmonton Oilers. All right,
Oh
that
jeez.
might have shot a hole in a lot of this validity, but it's still fun to look at, man.
No,
And it's
it
like,
is. It is.
yeah, the Orlando Magic are gonna win 4 out of 5
Wow.
according to this from 2071. They're going to win 71, 72, 73. They're going to go back to back to back.
Man.
And then they're going to and then they'll pick it back up in 2075.
Good for them.
Good for them. The Sonics at that point, the Sonics will be 5 they'll have won 6 times in the next 75 years for a franchise that doesn't exist.
That's crazy.
It's kind of funny.
That's crazy.
That's kind of the sad state of where we're at, and I feel like that was like a fun thing to kind of put a bow on all this.
I hope the Sonics come back and win. That'll be cool.
Listen, I know that there was talk of potentially moving some of the woe be gone. I know that there was discussion that Charlotte, maybe New Orleans was a candidate to potentially move there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Go sports team.
Yeah. Just play for that pick, baby.
Yeah, I think it's we need you to lose bad. We're gonna let Jeff Doughton Jr. cook.
Yeah, let him do it.
Well, the weather's supposed to be nice. Eric and I will be on talking a little bit of Phillies tomorrow.
Sweet. Yeah.
But Mark, we'll catch up with the Sixers at some point. And I don't know.
We'll probably be doing draft prep our next show.
You know what? Maybe that might. And listen, March Madness is about to start. I'm sure we'll get a glimpse at a decent amount of guys that'll be available with that top 6 pick. Maybe that's not. All right, Mark. There we go.
Yeah.
Little draft prep at the end of the show. We gotta look out for our draft coverage.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all we got.
Lose Sixers. You suck. Enjoy your Saturdays. Peace.